So if you've watched my recent videos on 35mm lenses, you'll know that I compared the Sony 35mm f1.4 G Master to the Sigma 35mm f1.4 Art lens, and then I compared the Nikon 35mm f1.4 lens to its 35mm f1.8 S lens. I think in both of those videos, I mentioned the one 35mm lens I haven't tried out is this guy. The Sony Zeiss, or Zeiss Sony, I'm going to call it the Sony 35mm f1.4. Since the Sony 55mm f1.8 was such a surprising cracker, hidden gem of a lens, I wondered if this guy, in my favorite 35mm focal length, was a similar diamond in the rough, hidden gem, forgotten amazing lens. Well, the short version is that it's not quite up to that level. It does have that beautiful Zeiss Sony rendering, nice fall off, good micro contrast, but it is just not a sharp lens, especially when it's open at 1.4. So even though I slightly like the bokeh and rendering better on this lens than the Sony G Master 35mm f1.4, which, if you saw my other video, is very similar to the Sigma 35mm f1.4. Even though I like the bokeh and the rendering of that Zeiss lens better, this lens is just so much sharper, and the difference in rendering and bokeh is so small that I would definitely recommend the G Master or the Sigma over the Sony lens. But the other sort of upside of me getting my hands on this lens is that I feel like I've pretty much tried every full frame 35mm, wide aperture prime out there. Oh, quick edit here. I realized that Sigma has a 35mm f1.2. I haven't gotten to try that yet, so that didn't make the list, and maybe I'll do this again and update once I've tried that. I'm filming on the Leica SL2S, which I'm just loving, and they make an E-mount version of that 35mm f1.2 from Sigma, so, more to come perhaps. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a super quick ranking of all those lenses. Except for one exception, pretty much the answer is, at least in terms of 35mm focal length primes, you get what you pay for. I think the best 35mm wide aperture prime is the Leica Summicron 35mm f2 Apo. I like this better than the Leica SL 35mm Apo, although they are very similar in quality. I just like the rendering of this guy a little bit better. The fact that it's a close focusing macro lens as well is just a cherry on top of this sweet, basically best lens, Leica's best lens, not just the best 35, cake. I also like it better than Leica's 35mm f1.4 Summilux ASPH. They're very similar, but this one just has that je ne sais quoi, something special. But this lens is like $8,500 new. So, not a price for mere mortals. You gotta really want the best of the best to get this. The SL Apo 35mm is like $5,100, so also very expensive, more than double, even triple the price of any other lens on this list not made by Leica. When we're talking about 35mm at the top of the pops, I do also have to mention the Leica 35mm f1.4 Summilux steel rim reissue. This is actually probably my favorite 35mm lens ever made. I just love the character, the retro vibes coming off of this, and then when you stop it down, it's nice and sharp like any other Leica lens. This guy runs for $4,095, so also not cheap, but I just feel like this is what a vintage lens, character lens should be, and I just love it for that character. Now, leaving the stratosphere, coming back to Earth where mere mortals live, price-wise, my next favorite 35 is also the next most expensive lens on the list. That is the Canon 35mm f1.4 VCM. This is their new hybrid photo video lens. I just like the way it renders. It's very sharp. The only thing sharper are the Leica lenses, but the Leica lenses are 5 or 10% more sharp, but they are certainly not 5 or 10% more expensive. They're much more expensive. So, bang for buck, I think this is basically the best 35mm f1.4 or just 35mm lens out on the market, certainly made by a Japanese manufacturer. Next on the list is the Sony G Master 35mm f1.4. It's very close to the Canon RF. I just prefer the Canon a little bit more, and I think the Canon's like a hair sharper, but it's a very small hair, you know. The Canon VCM 35mm retails for $14.99, and then the G Master retails for $13.99. So it's $100 cheaper, and ironically, I would say like there's like $100 worth of difference in the quality of the lens. So that's an ironic or unique circumstance. You really are getting what you pay for. I don't think like either one of these lenses is so much different from the other that you would change systems. Like you should be totally happy with the Canon lens if you're a Canon shooter, and you're totally happy with this GM if you're a Sony shooter. You know, the Sigma Art is very similar, very good. I would not put this Sony in this category. I would put it lower with the sort of like more budget-friendly options, or if you didn't mind the softness, the rendering is really nice, and you're going for that like 80s soft focus Vaseline look, you know, Vaseline on the lens front look, then maybe this is up there for you. And you can get it used for like $600 or $700. So there is a use for this, but it's just not the best of the best. I feel like the G Master has updated it significantly enough that you would get this before you would get the Sony. Next on the list is the Nikon Z 35mm f1.8. That lens is $600, and it's almost as good as the Canon and Sony 1.4s. So it's really batting above its weight class. But it is not like a game changer, diamond in the rough, you know, incredible value like the Z50 f1.8. That lens is like something special. That is like in the category of these other 35s from Canon and Sony. The 35 didn't knock my socks off, but it's a very competent lens. After that, then I would rank, you know, kind of equally the Canon 35mm f1.8 and the Sony OG FE 35mm 1.8. They're all kind of in that category of, you know, competent lenses, just nothing special about them. No special rendering. They do the job. They're sharp enough. They have decent enough bokeh, etc., etc. And then below that, I put the Nikon 35mm f1.4. I love the idea that Nikon had of making like a character lens that has some vibes, but this just does not even come close to the steel rim and just kind of ends up being like not that great of a performer, honestly. Like I've got some really cool vibey kind of same thing, like 90s, you know, kind of in the realm of the Sony 35mm f1.4, just kind of like smeared lens 90s, you know, soft focus type pictures, but it doesn't have the rendering and sort of pop of the Zeiss lens. So, you know, I rank it below that. But having said all that, I love the idea of Nikon making character lenses. So I don't want to bang on this too hard because it's close but no cigar for me. But I can see people liking it. And like, I love the idea of like sort of a retro, more character lensy thing. So I hope Nikon keeps refining this and keeps making them because it's a great idea. This is also $600. I just think the f1.8S is a better lens. If I'm spending $600, I would get the 1.8. I mean, you could get both at that price. There's that. And then finally, you know, the Panasonic 35mm f1.8, I just didn't think it was that great. It's sort of in between this and the other 35 1.8s from the different manufacturers. It's fine, it's sharp enough, but it's just nothing special. It didn't do it for me. Also, the super cheap, you know, construction, just, you know, even the Leica versions weren't that great. So, you know, I'd kind of put that in that same category here with the 35 1.8s and this guy, the 1.4. Quick addition, I should have mentioned, I think that all of this creates an opportunity for both Nikon and Panasonic. They could each come out with a 35mm f1.4 or even 35mm f1.2 like I think Sigma has, and take the cake and beat all these lenses. So just an interesting thought, especially for Nikon. So what did you think? Did I get all of the 35mm out there for full frame cameras? Did I miss any? I know there's some other Leica variations, but you know, I thought 3 Leica lenses mentioned was plenty for one video. You know, but let me know if you think I missed anything and I must test it. And I'm also curious, have you tried all these different 35mm? Do you agree with my ranking? What was your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.